everyone. Today we're going to be looking at categorical data. Categorical data is a data set where the response is not a numeric value. So some examples of this could be if you were asked what your favorite color is, your favorite color, pet, food, items like that, and not just a set of numbers. We're specifically going to be looking at a relative frequency table. A table is a common way to display categorical data because it is easy to tally or count the responses. When the percent of each category is calculated, it is called a relative frequency table. We're also going to be looking at the mode. The mode is the value that appears the most or is represented the most in a data set or is the most frequent in a frequency table. So taking a closer look at that, we're going to look at a survey that is taken to determine the most common pet that students have. Complete the table below. So we have a cat, dog, hamster, fish, and they each have a number of students associated with that. Our goal is to find the percent of students. That's going to be the relative frequency. So you already watched a video to refresh your memory on how to find the percent. Remember, percent means out of 100, and we can use a proportion to make it equivalent to the part over the whole to find what the percent is. Let's go ahead and look at the first one. The first one are cats. 62 students chose cats. We want to know what percent of the students this makes up. So let's go ahead and start filling out our proportion. I always like to put the 100 first because that part always stays the same. We know we're looking for the percent here, and we know the part is 62. What would the whole amount be for this table? The whole would be 200. What we have to do is add up all the numbers of students to find that total. So 62 plus 84 plus 38 plus 16 gives you 200. And we like that number because that number will be easy to work with our 100 for the percent. So now we're going to calculate this percent. I shared with you several strategies that you could use in the previous video. Using one of those strategies, what do you think the percent is for the number of students who chose cats? To me, the easiest strategy to use here is to divide by 2 because 200 divided by 2 equals 100, which means we would take our number of students and divide it by 2 to get our percent. What is 62 divided by 2? That would be 31%. 31% of the students chose cats or said that they have a cat. Now we're going to go ahead and do this for the other ones as well. Now, some things will stay the same, our percent, our whole. The part is the only thing that will change. So our next part is 84 for dogs. What percent of the students said that they have a dog as their pet? This would be 42%. Again, you could take this and you could divide by 2. You could use that strategy. Okay. Next, we have 38 for the hamsters. What percent of the students said that they have hamster as their pet? This percent would be 19%. 38 divided by 2 equals 19. Our last one is fish. What percent of the students said that they have fish? This would be 8% because 16 divided by 2 is 8. Now remember, for this one, we could divide by 2 on each one, but sometimes it's best, remember there are other strategies, like you could simplify your ratio. You could divide it by 2 or 4. If you divide by 4, you would get 4 over 50. Which you could also simplify to 2 over 25. So you could always simplify and then find the relationship. Or remember, you can always cross multiply as well. 100 times 16 would give you 1,600. And you could divide that by 200. You're working with bigger numbers, so I definitely look for a relationship first. But remember, that's always an option if you're not sure. Another thing to check on your relative frequency table is to check that your percents add up to 100%. Whenever we add up 31, 42, 19, and 8, that has to equal 100%. That's another way to check. Now, sometimes you will, after you find the percents, you have to answer some questions. So we have the percents here in our table, and we're going to answer 3 questions. The first one is, what percent of the students have a fish or a hamster? Looking at the table, we're looking at these percents right here, 19 and 8. When you add 19% plus 8%, you get 27%. So 27% of students have a fish or a hamster. Okay, next question. Which pet has the greatest relative frequency? The pet that has the greatest relative frequency is the dog. The dog is the pet, and remember, this is called the mode. The greatest relative frequency. The most students and the highest percentage said that the dog was the pet that they had. Okay, last question. Exactly 73% of students owned which 2 pets? So when you look at your percents, the only 2 that add up to 73 are going to be cats and dogs. So cats and dogs make up exactly 73% of students in this group. So now you're going to be practicing working on relative frequency tables. Remember, the focus is finding the percent of the numbers given to you, and sometimes you'll be asked additional questions. Remember, there are several strategies to find a percent of a number, and you can always refer back to that previous video if you need to.